Welcome back to Long Delays Hobbies. So today I am going to be working on building a Khandish Charioteer. This is a part of a project that I have been working on for the last month or so. Probably going to be continuing to work on it as part of an army list that I'm putting together for an event next year. So this is kind of a tricky model to put together. I thought I would put together a how to build video for this miniature because, as I said, if you're not accustomed to building these types of miniatures, it's a little bit frustrating. I know when I put together the first one, I was really annoyed and aggravated. I've now put together 4 of them, so I kind of have the hang of it now. Not really that annoyed by it anymore, but they do not come with instructions because they are an old kit from about 20 years ago now. They're not in production anymore from Games Workshop, so you'll either need to get one off of like eBay or the secondhand market or other sources. But even the original ones didn't come with instructions. The assumption was always that you would just kind of figure it out, right? So, which is probably not the best assumption, certainly not nowadays. Current Games Workshop doesn't always assume that you're just going to figure things out. So we have a couple parts to the kit. Here's the rider and his little back banner that's going to attach to his back. The weapons, you can either, there's a hand-and-a-half axe and a bow. So the weapon options on the profile say you can either give him a hand-and-a-half axe or you can upgrade to a bow. What I like to do is glue the bow onto the kit and then equip him with the axe in his hand, because even if you give him the bow, he still I think has a hand weapon, and also like gluing the bow in his hand looks really weird. So either way, just glue the axe in his hand and then find something to do with the bow to still represent that he's armed with the bow. And if for some reason you just don't want to put the bow on the miniature, then just don't do that. But gluing the bow in it, as you can kind of tell here, he's not really meant to be holding a bow in his pose. It just looks kind of awkward. So that's the rider. This is what he rides in. This is the chariot. So it faces, the little headpiece faces forward like this. He rides, there's a little hole here. He has a peg that kind of slots in there. This peg isn't really, doesn't, honestly, for me at least, it never really fit in there quite right, but you won't really see this hole once the miniature is built. So he rides in there like that. You'll have 2 wheels. As far as I can tell, there isn't a difference between these two, at least none that I can tell though. So just pick a side and then just kind of carefully put the 2 wheels in place. You might not even have to glue these wheels. I did because I didn't want them spinning around, but like I didn't glue this wheel and it fit just fine. So there's 2 horses to this chariot. One of the odd things about it is that if you look closely, they are the horses themselves are labeled 1 and 2. You can see there. I don't know if that comes up on the camera, but there's a 1 here and there's a 2 here. But as far as I can tell, the corresponding legs don't have any kind of numbers that I could see. Like there's no 2 on any of these, which is a little bit odd. The back legs are fairly straightforward. You probably could mix and match, to be honest with you. So, so the one that's kind of got this like jagged cut, I think it's meant to go on horse number 1. The way I kind of tell was by looking at the straps, because on this one the straps line up a little bit better. You could probably see it doesn't quite line up on this one, whereas let's take a look at this one. Yeah, this one fits much better. So you could probably get green stuff to make the other one fit. Wouldn't really be that hard if you want to just mix up their poses, but they're not really meant to fit. The front legs don't fit quite as well. At least I didn't think they did. If you don't cut them exactly right, they will They just, you'll need to either go back in with green stuff or shave them. So I think this one might go to horse number 1. Yeah, this one goes to horse number 1. Again, just look for where this piece fits into here. Again, it's not an exact fit. You'll probably, if you care about the seam, just go back in with green stuff. And this one, goes into horse number 2. Now, because of this saddle, this seam isn't really that apparent, but of course that seam is really obvious. Now, this is all going to be covered by the next part, which is the yoke. So this is kind of what makes this model. What makes it model into a chariot. It also makes it really frustrating to build. Is that the yoke doesn't really fit exactly any part of the miniature. There's not like a specific place to lock onto. So, well, let's talk about the pole first. So the pole has these 2 little notches. They're kind of hard to see here, but there are 2 little notches here that you want to glue to the bottom of the chariot. You want to let that dry really well, because at least for me, I found it really hard for this to attach, but eventually it will. You want to make this as flat and as straight as possible during this phase, because it's really easy for this to kind of like drift, one way or the other, which is gonna, if that happens, it causes problems. So try to make sure this is really like as straight as you can get it. This little bit here, the yoke itself, actually does have a correct way to go on, but you can only really tell from trial and error. Like there's just a way that it wants to go on. Yeah, so that's the way. So just fiddle with it until you can kind of feel the way it wants to go on. Being as this is a resin model that I'm working with, what you kind of have to do once you've gotten the body of the chariot in place, you're gonna have to glue it in different parts, because otherwise you can end up in a situation where you've got the entire miniature like glued together and the horses will kind of like be floating out in space. So what I've done with mine is like, we'll glue the back down first. You can see I've already done the basing of the terrain. That's something, if you care about having your miniatures kind of sit on the terrain rather than appear to be driving through it, I'd recommend you do at least the basing first on the backside. I'm gonna glue this down, and then once that's like firmly secure, I'm gonna then glue the horses down once I've got their legs glued and everything. And then I'm going to then glue the yoke and pull down and attach them to the horses. So that's kind of the more complicated part of the operation that can easily go awry. The other thing too is that this model takes up quite a large footprint. I think if they were to redo this and they actually kept it in a range, they'd probably put this on an 80 mil base. There's no way to keep the entire thing on the whole base. It overflows the base pretty much on both sides. So the wheels going off the back and the horses are going off of the front. When you actually put the chariot on, you want to make sure that you're putting it as basically as far back as you can get it. So the only other pieces left really are these little bows and arrows as quivers. So those kind of slot. These do have a left and right, but it's pretty straightforward which one is which. The only kind of tricky thing is that sometimes they don't fit quite right. So sometimes there's some flash in here, which is exactly what's happening right now. So let's just clean that up a little bit. And once you've cleaned up the flash, then they fit pretty well. Yeah, just make sure you don't reverse them. Like, so this one is the left side of the chariot, and this one's the right side. Yeah, they actually fit in. I could probably get away with not gluing that, but I'm still going to glue it. All right, so I'm gonna put some glue to these different elements of the miniature, and we'll come back and see how that looks. All right, so we've now glued the majority of the bits together. So we've got our 2 horses. We've glued them together, got their legs attached. We've got our Khandish Charioteer with his back banner and his pole axe glued to his arm. And we have got our chariot constructed. I just kind of shoehorned the bow onto the right side of the chariot. I think in a few cases I put it in the left side just to make it look a little bit different. You can almost kind of glue the bow anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter because there's not a specific place for it. So when it comes to priming these, I'm going to prime all of these 4 pieces separately. I'm also going to do some green stuffing because as you can see on the horses, there is quite a large gap on his hindquarters and underneath the strap. So, I mean, it's not the worst gap in the world. I've definitely seen much worse on these older kits, but still something I would prefer to just fill with some green stuff. Once I do that, I'm going to prime all these little bits here. And then the plan is, after they're primed, I'm going to glue the horses and to the chariot. And then I'll actually begin painting them. So I'm going to leave the charioteer disattached from the chariot while I paint him, because otherwise it's almost impossible to get to the front bits of the chariot and the floor of the chariot if the guy's glued in there. So I'm going to leave him separate. I will glue the horses because it's really hard to... You can paint them separately, like in a sub-assembly, but as you'll kind of see whenever I glue them on there, like you kind of have to finagle them when you're gluing them a little bit. So if I were to paint them separately and then do that afterwards, then I'd probably end up messing with my paint job. So I prefer just to glue them first. Next step is to, as I said, fill these gaps with green stuff and then do some priming. So I've now finished applying some green stuff to the gaps of these horses, as you can see here. Might need to clean it up just a little bit more, but yeah, so this is going to ensure that when I do prime these horses, we won't have those unsightly gaps. So the next step is going to be priming these bits, and then we can get ready to finish the assembly. We have now completed the priming of the different sub-assembled parts of the Khandish Charioteer. So here is the chariot. So it's all done. We've got our chariot driver. He's all finished. We're gonna paint him separately. We're gonna leave him off until he's fully painted. So he's just gonna go off to the side over here. And I primed the horses separately. I won't be painting them sub-assembled. I just primed them sub-assembled. I'm gonna be gluing them onto the base. So this is the truly fun part, which is gluing the chariot onto the base. I'm using a sand texture base. It is from Vallejo Diorama. This kind of light colored earth texture desert sand. So to kind of give them the look of being out on the open desert sand. What I'm gonna do, I believe the intention is for this one with the larger base to go on the right hand side, and then for the one with the smaller, flatter base to go on the right. So I'm not gluing them down just yet. What I'm gonna do is first glue the chariot down, and then I'm going to actually put some more of this base texture down after I've glued this down, because I just think that it might be easier than trying to put basing texture down over the bottom parts of the horses. It's because it will kind of get messy, as you can kind of tell. Putting basing texture down over this is just going to result in basing texture getting put over these horses that I've already primed. But I do want to have kind of a general idea of where I want to put this chariot on the base. So I'm going to just kind of gently set them here. Okay, so I think right about there. And this is slightly bendy, so thankfully I can manipulate it if I need to. Yeah, right about there should be fine. So we're gonna make our Loctite. Okay. While that glue is setting, we'll just check one more time to make sure that this is okay. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay. So it is kind of off the back of the base, but that's kind of unavoidable, because the profile of this miniature is really large. So you have to make a choice of Do you want the wheels to be hanging off the back, or do you want the horses to be hanging off the front? I chose to let the wheels hang off the back, but you know, you may prefer to have the horses hang off the front. It's kind of your choice. So I'm going to put some basing texture now on the front, let that dry, and then I will come back for the final assembly of the chariot. So the glue is now dried on my chariot. I've also put some further basing texture down on the front of this base, and it is mostly dry. It's dry enough to apply some glue. So I'm gonna now momentarily put some horses on here. One thing I am gonna do first though is clip off the bottom of these horses. The reason why I'm gonna do that is it's just gonna make it easier whenever I go to later on. So after I glue these on, so as you can see, this is going to be a little bit awkward looking. I'm going to have to base back over that. Now, I'm going to have to apply some base and texture anyway, but the more of this like bottom base I clip away, the easier it's going to be, and the less chance that there's going to be that I mess up and apply basing texture like on the bottom of a leg or a tail or whatever. So I'm going to try to trim away as much of this as I can. On this horse, there's a ton here that's really not necessary. It actually makes things harder because this isn't a flat surface anymore. So I'm gonna trim away this little stand. Like so. Okay, that's all right. A little bit of resin showing there, but that's not an issue. We're gonna just base over that. I'm not gonna worry about trying to prime that. And for this guy, a little bit trickier. I'm just gonna carefully put our clippers in here. Not sure how well the light's showing up on that. But we'll try to put our clippers next in between his hooves. There we go. This right back hoof is not actually even attached to anything. So I'm not worried about doing any damage there. It's just the front two that are attached. So you can clip on that side with reckless abandon. I'm probably going to leave a little bit of flat texture here on this side because this leg is like kind of at an angle. So I kind of want at least a little bit of surface area here for this to go down onto. Okay, so now that that's done, let's see if we can get a good position for these guys. I think this is probably going to be okay. That's fine. So we'll start with this guy. I don't think I'm not sure I need to bother with gluing the feet. Well, let's go ahead and do it anyway though. I'm just gonna glue these 2 feet here. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I definitely didn't need to glue the feet, even though I already have, because I'm gonna just base over them anyway. But that's okay. More glue the merrier, I suppose. Okay, that is fairly set. It'll dry off a bit. Okay, so now we will glue the other horse in. Let's make sure he's more or less firm at the base. We're gonna have to pinch down. I'm gonna try to avoid pinching down as much as possible, but due to the nature of this kit, there always seems to be one or the other horse you have to push down a little bit on. So in this case, it's this guy. So let's go ahead and apply our glue here to the saddle. And the horse, as you can tell, is floating a little bit. It may not be coming up very well, but let's see if we can adjust our lighting. There we are. So the left horse from the driver's direction it's got a little bit of a float action going on here, but once this glue dries in 30 or so minutes, what I'll do is I'll just squeeze some glue underneath here and then push down on this horse to make sure that that's actually firmly set. I could just, if I wanted to be lazy, I could just get some basing texture and just shove it underneath there, but I think that might look kind of weird. So, and after that, I think this model will be just about complete from a building perspective. All right, so that glue now was able to dry on top of the saddle. And so then I went to the bottom of the miniature where the horse feet attach, and I just applied just a little bit of glue there to get the horse feet to stick to the base. So I think with that we can now call this miniature fully built. Once I kind of get closer to painting this model, I am going to of course go back over these little bits that extend out from the horse feet, out from his little hooves and stuff right here and here. So that won't take too long, but it just will kind of more clearly delineate where the horse hooves are. As you can tell though, that's just doing that is going to be way easier in my opinion than trying to base over those giant pieces that otherwise would have extended. So like here's one piece here. I would have had to, if I hadn't clipped these pieces off, I would have to base over all that, getting my texture tool underneath the horse. In that instance, this horse, this whole sculpt is really tricky because you kind of have to go right underneath and somehow avoid getting your sand or whatever your texture tool, texture of choice is, from getting underneath like this hoof and this hoof here. So by clipping these little bits of the bottom of the miniature off, you kind of avoid that. You just have to put up just a little bit of basing texture over on the side. So once again, we're gonna call him finished. I am hoping to get a painting tutorial or how I painted a video up fairly soon, within the next maybe couple months. I already have a how I painted about Khandish Warrior, so that's basically what the guide I'm going to follow for the Charioteer. As far as, so it's mostly going to be dedicated on the chariot itself. Thank you very much for watching this how I built video. If you have any other questions about the process I followed, or if you have any comments about how I built this chariot, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below this video. Take care.